If you've ever come home from a trip on a Sunday night with no groceries, no plan, and nothing prepped, you already know how the week's gonna go. We're gearing up to go on a long weekend trip, which means that I won't have Sunday to do my normal meal prep, but I also don't wanna come home and feel like I have nothing ready and the week to just unravel. So I wanna have a plan, which means I'm going to be prepping ahead and I'm gonna be making some freezer-friendly, high-protein dinners that I know I can just pull out when we get home from our trip. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to use ground beef and chicken breasts to make 4 different dinners that are all freezer friendly and delicious. On the menu, we've got a ground beef unstuffed bell pepper skillet, chicken burritos, a ground beef ginger stir fry, and then barbecue chicken quesadillas. So if you are also gearing up to go on a trip, or you know life's just about to get busy, this is an easy way to have a little bit of breathing room in your week. Let's get started. Although I won't be making a repeatable breakfast or lunch this week, I'm still sticking to my shared proteins and carbs. So this week we've got chicken and ground beef to go across 4 meals, and then tortillas and rice to also go across 4 meals, just like 2 dinners each with those shared carbs and proteins. All right, starting with the first meal, this is my ground beef unstuffed pepper skillet. This one is super simple, but really, really good. I'm using 2 packs of lean ground beef from Costco, and I'm actually cooking both at the same time because I'm going to be using some of this for the stir fry. Originally, I thought I was going to be separating everything and be really organized about it, but that did not happen. I just threw it all in one pan and kind of split it up as it cooked, which honestly is usually how this goes in real life. So while that was cooking, I chopped up some onion for the stir fry portion and started sauteing that on one side, and then I just pulled some of the cooked beef over for that meal. So this is kind of a good example of what I mean when I say I like to keep things flexible. You don't need 4 separate pans going. You can just work with what you have. Build meals as you go. So for the unstuffed pepper skillet, I kept this really easy. I used a frozen bell pepper and onion mix, which I got at Walmart. I love keeping this on hand for things like this. A lot of times I'll use fresh, but especially for freezer meals, it just makes it faster. There's no extra chopping, and that's exactly what I was looking for when I was putting this together. I added that straight into the pan with the beef and then seasoned everything with garlic powder, onion powder, and Italian seasoning. Once that cooked down a bit, I started building the sauce. So I added tomato paste and a little Worcestershire sauce, but I forgot to film it. And this is one of those meals where you can kind of adjust just based on what you like. If you like it a little sweeter, you can add ketchup. If you want it more saucy, just add a little more liquid. And because everything's already cooked, this comes together really quickly. Meaning once the ground beef is cooked. This is also a really high protein, lower effort meal, which is exactly what I want, especially during weeks that we're busy and I can just pull this out of the freezer when we're coming back from traveling is obviously why I'm making this. But once everything tasted how I wanted it, I just transferred it into a glass container so it's ready to freeze. And this is one of those meals that, again, reheats really well. So future me is going to be very happy to have this ready to go. Next up are these chicken burritos, and this is honestly one of my favorite meals in this video of how I reuse the same ingredients but make them taste completely different. So I'm starting again with that same frozen onion and bell pepper mix, and this is something I do all the time. If I can use one ingredient across multiple meals, it just simplifies everything. Less chopping, less waste, less wasted money, and honestly just less thinking. So I sauteed those veggies for a few minutes just to soften them up, and then I added in some cooked shredded chicken. And shredded chicken is probably one of the most versatile things you can prep. You take the exact same base and turn it into completely different meals depending on how you season it. And for this one, I kept it really simple and just used some of the salsa that I already had opened. And I added that straight into the pan with a little bit of garlic powder and salt and just let the chicken heat through and soak everything up. If you wanted to take this a step further, you could definitely add taco seasoning and a little bit of chicken broth to make it more saucy, but honestly, this worked really well as is, especially for something you're freezing. That's kind of how I think about freezer meals in general. I just don't want to overcomplicate them. I just want something that reheats well and still tastes good. And once that was done, it's just about assembling. I use these carb balanced tortillas. I personally like them because the macros are really good for the size and they're just a little bit higher in fiber and lower in calories, but you can use whatever tortillas you like best. Added the chicken mixture, a little bit of cheese, and kept these really simple. You can, of course, customize where you'd like, add beans, rice, extra veggies, but I folded them and rolled them up into burritos. When it comes to freezing, I like to wrap each one in parchment paper first and then foil. It just helps keep their shape, prevents sticking, and makes them really easy to reheat later. One thing I always do, because I know I won't remember, is definitely write what these are on the bag. But then I also write the macros on the outside of the bag so that when I go grab one out of the freezer, I don't have to think and relog anything. It's already done. These are perfect for busy nights, quick lunches, or honestly, something you can take on the go. All right, quick pause because this part of the video is actually in partnership with Nourish, and I'm genuinely excited to share this because it's been so helpful for me. For the longest time, I thought I knew what I was supposed to do. Eat high protein, balanced meals, but I still wasn't seeing the progress that I was looking for. And if you're newer to nutrition, I feel like it's so overwhelming because there's so much information out there and it's really hard to pay attention to what matters. One thing I was personally struggling with was taking bites of my kids' food throughout the day. They're 2 and 4, so clean plates are very rare, and it's just hard to throw away food that's essentially untouched, but it adds up fast. I also grew up in a whole clean your plate mentality household, and as a newer mom, I'm really trying not to pass that down to my kids, but then I quickly realized I was just transferring that habit back onto myself. So I started using Nourish, which is a platform where you get paired with a registered dietitian and it's all virtual. It's really simple to get started. You answer a few simple questions, you get matched, and then you book your first appointment, and it takes maybe 5 minutes. Something my dietitian pointed out to me was those little bites of my kids' food and how they can add up. And she didn't bring this up in a judgmental way. It was more so just bringing awareness to it. She's also a mom, so she understood where I was coming from. But having that kind of support and accountability just made me more mindful and not in a restrictive way. That's why I loved pairing my experience with Nourish with just my healthy habits I had already established around meal prep and balanced meals. It just felt like that accountability layer that I was missing. I had actually used Nourish before they reached out to me, so I'm genuinely excited to share more about them. Something that really surprised me when I first started with Nourish was that all my sessions through United Healthcare were completely covered, which meant I paid nothing. They also have a no surprise billing guarantee, which means that your appointment will never cost more than the upfront estimate that they provide you. And this seems to be true for about 94% of their patients, which means that they pay $0 out of pocket. Everything being virtual was so key for me. I could take a meeting with my dietitian during nap time or during my lunchtime, and it just made it so much easier to actually be accountable. So if you take anything away from this, just know that those little bites actually do add up. And if you're looking for a little bit more guidance or accountability like I was, you can check out Nourish using the link in the description below to book your first appointment. It takes less than 5 minutes. Now let's get back to meal prep. Next is the ground beef ginger stir fry, and this one also comes together really fast because we've already done the ground beef cooking from earlier. Like I mentioned, I just split the ground beef into 2 and obviously took some of that ground beef, added it to a pan with a sauteed onion. I totally forgot to mention in the unstuffed skillet recipe that you're going to add rice. Once you've cooked your rice, you can use that as your carb for that meal. But anyway, for the flavor here, I kept it super simple, really effective. I use soy sauce and the semi-fresh ginger that comes in this container. I love it because it saves time and just really gives you that really good fresh flavor. Added that into the pan and just let everything cook together so the beef would soak up the sauce. And honestly, that's about it. You could serve this over rice, add in some veggies like broccoli or green beans, and just keep it simple depending on what you have. Okay, for this next meal, I'm not sure you can get more simple than this because you're literally sticking chicken in a tortilla and putting it on the stovetop. Heck, you could even put these in the microwave, but they're not going to come out as good, I promise you. So I took the chicken, the shredded chicken that I had from the meal prep that I had used also for the chicken burritos. And then I just mixed it with barbecue sauce, and it just kind of puts a different spin on a traditional quesadilla. Add cheese, add it to whatever pan you want to use. I like using the cast iron in this case, and then just melt the cheese and that's about it. And you just cut it up. I made this one in particular for my kids, so I cut it up in smaller pieces, but this is just a really fast, easy, especially, man, if you're like in sports season or something, a really quick dinner to put together, assuming you had your chicken made and ready, and then you just add barbecue sauce. It's great. I hope these ideas were helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.